All right, everyone. Trump has put out a message saying, yes, indeed, we are building the wall, putting out a speculative total about by the end of the year or by the end of his first term. I can't remember exactly which. There'll be about 500 miles of barrier built. This is mostly true, so I'm going to pick it apart and tell you what the general best guess is of the trajectory of the wall, because, I mean, it is important. It was one of his main campaign promises. Here's the thing. Trump cannot unilaterally build whatever kind of barrier he wants across the entire border, even if he got carte blanche as far as the legislature and the courts didn't care, and he had all of the money, specifically because, there are certain states' rights issues involved, private property rights and so forth. That can be a problem. Not that that really matters in the most part, but, for certain spots in the wall. I think, wasn't it, did Cracked buy a chunk of the border at one point as a publicity stunt? Was it Cracked or was it or Heavy or one of these other groups? I can't remember which one did it. Anyway, he has gotten the funding. He's gotten something like $3.5 billion from the Pentagon. This is discretionary military spending, and what the Coulterites never understood was that he can do that, but there's a caveat. He had to get around the Ninth Circuit first. Their injunction was overturned. It's been found, yes, indeed, Trump has the ability to utilize this money from the U.S. military to do this. I saw the most funny status ever yesterday, which was someone, a liberal, complaining on this, saying basically, well, Trump has slashed the military budget by $3.5 billion. He's depriving money from our soldiers. And it was like the funniest thing is you've got Trump derangement syndrome so bad you're actually arguing against cutting the military budget. According to that, that's what you're saying. It is a military purpose. A defensive wall on your southern border has to do with that. I don't understand exactly how you cannot claim that that's not an executive capacity when it has to do directly with the defense of the nation. He's gotten the money, and he will be building border wall. Here's the thing. It's not all making new barriers where there's nothing at the moment. A lot of it is retrofitting existing barriers. In some parts of the border, you've got little more than maybe a 12-foot chain link fence, double row. He's replacing that with his 30-foot, much thicker steel barrier. It also comes with electronic monitoring. It's a significant upgrade. It's significantly harder to cross than the current barrier in most parts of the U.S. border on the southern border. That's a good thing. This fulfills his campaign promise, by the way. There is also some new barrier that will be going up and certain other modifications and improvements. The idea that this finishes the job, of course, is wrong, but it is a good start. This is step 2. Step 1, well, technically step 3. Step 1 was the planning, prototyping stage, what's actually going where. Step 2 was getting around the Ninth Circuit. He's managed to do that, and he couldn't get funding from the legislature because some of the Republicans that would have funded it balked at the idea of the cost. Oh, our constituents don't want us spending more money. Now, you could have just cut any of a million bureaucracies and saved that $3 or $4 billion, and it wouldn't have been a problem, but fuck it. You've got an insane situation, therefore. Where you've got Republicans, including Amash, defecting on the issue. Amash got so pissed off over this and other issues, he leaves the Republican Party. But Trump got his funding, finally, through the discretionary spending. It's emergency spending. The idea is that there's such a crisis at the southern border. It's porous, it's unsafe, there's cartel activity going on there, and it's currently not guarded properly. It's a national emergency of significance enough that it has to be taken care of by the Pentagon because our legislature won't do anything about it. I agree with that summation, and indeed so did, I guess, the Supreme Court. So Trump has fulfilled a major campaign promise. But keep in mind, he will face continuous pushback by the states, by localities, by private individuals that are on or near the U.S. border. He will face continuous struggles. Anything other than retrofitting wall that is already there or fencing that is already there will be more difficult. Putting up a barrier where there's currently little more than a zone of some barbed wire. Some parts of the southern border in the more remote areas are little more than little 5-foot steel pipes with some wire on them. It's basically just a mild vehicle barrier because, vehicles aren't going to try to cross there mostly anyway. It would be very easy, electronic monitoring aside, for people to come across with drugs or human trafficking or whatever. It'd be a big problem. And so what you've got is you need to improve those areas of the border. The thing is, anything that slows down human movement allows a better response time, certainly for ICE agents to get to that location if you have proper monitoring. I'm more uncomfortable with the electronic monitoring on the basis that you could accidentally be monitoring U.S. citizens on their own private property. That, to me, as a libertarian, that could be problematic. But building a 30-foot wall there, so we've already got similar barriers along parts of the border, and it works. People will go around them, but they won't try to go over them where they're present. There's a reason for that, because it's fucking harder. So you make it harder the whole length of the border. What you do is you try to disincentivize people as well from coming from some place in Central America, probably getting assaulted on the way, a 1,000-mile journey to get out of their country that's been wrecked by leftism to try to come here where leftists want to wreck our economy too. I think that it's better to build the border wall up properly, build the border zone, do the monitoring as you have to, keeping in mind there's a Fourth Amendment issue there definitely on the table, and then make it clear that people will be deported if they're here illegally. Why don't we focus on fixing the legal immigration crisis that we've also got? It doesn't get nearly enough attention. You've got people backlogged for half of forever. I mean, the slowness with which that particular bureaucracy operates is appalling. And we could expedite it considerably. I mean, the system involved with background checks and paperwork and all that shit could be so streamlined. We could make it a 1-month process easily if we wanted to. But right now there's no incentive to do that because no political capital can be scored by talking about that issue because most Americans don't even know it's a problem. But they do know that there's a problem on the southern border, which is why that gets focused on. And until that's solved, my worry is that we'll never solve our legal immigration problems. Until that's solved, I worry that we'll never solve many of the other problems that we could have and be tackling in this country until this particular issue is actually solved once and for all. The problem is executive administration after executive administration since the Reagan era has talked a big game. They've all said the same things as Trump, but none of them have walked the walk. He's the only one who was ballsy enough to ask the Pentagon for the money. I think partially people were worried the Pentagon would say no. Oh no, we don't want a green like this because discretionary spending, they can do whatever the hell they want. He issues a directive. Maybe past presidents were worried they'd get denied. Oh my God, $3.5 billion. It's an awful lot, Mr. President, to secure 500 miles of border. Well, no, not really. I think it'll pay off dividends in the long term. That's about all. Peace out.